Trucks. It's Isaac and Josh. It's trucks. Where are we?
Where are we? We are currently somewhere.
Yeah, we're in. I don't even remember, man. We're in a place.
Well, let's find out. It's unforgivable that we don't know where we are.
We're in Magdeburg.
Magdeburg. Man, look at all this yellow. That's where we've been.
Yeah.
Aren't you proud? We've really been avoiding England.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why though.
No, the ferry is annoying. That's why.
Yeah.
We're going east today, so.
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying it. We've got a lot of virgin ground to cover here. There's a beautiful blue moon. There's a tanker going its way.
Let's take a quick look at our flower.
Oh, jeez. That is not aesthetically inspiring.
I'm trying to remember the button to get back in my cockpit. I just pressed it. There it is.
Cockpit. Yeah.
What do you, my dad? This is a cockpit, isn't it? Wouldn't you call it a cockpit?
We call it a cab.
Cab.
You're in the cab of your truck.
Interesting.
Yeah. I know all the lingo. I know the jargon.
You were a truck driver in real life once.
I've driven in trucks.
Really?
Yeah.
It's taking you this long to mention this.
Well, not these kinds of trucks.
Okay.
I've driven in pickup trucks.
And they have cabs,
They have cabs, yeah.
Well, cab is short for cabin.
Yeah. It's a cabin in the truck.
I see. Okay, so as you might have gathered, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have anything to talk about.
Well,
that's not strictly true.
So the deal is that I'm in China right now, essentially.
At the time we're
like
listening
when you're
to
hearing this, I'm in China, so we can't record one, which means we were like this week, oh my god, in order to avoid disappointing our legions of dedicated viewers, we've got to put one in the can before I go.
Yeah.
You know.
So we're just gonna do it. Gonna have a little chat, shoot the breeze.
It's gonna be one of them extemporaneous type ones, like we used to do back in the old days. You know?
Yeah, but the nice thing is that including the one we're gonna record tomorrow with Rob, which we're gonna upload before this one.
Right.
We've gone 2 episodes without talking about video games, probably. So that gives us license to talk about nothing but video games this time.
Oh, you dog. That's what people are after anyway. It's the video game talk.
Yeah, someone wanted to know your thoughts on Hotline Miami.
Yeah, no, this seems like a pretty good time to talk about that. So, Josh, let's talk about my thoughts on Hotline Miami. What are your thoughts on my thoughts on Hotline Miami?
I think you probably have the right thoughts on Hotline Miami.
Yeah, probably. So yeah. No, the dude who asked me was like, I think that most people don't get how, many things it has going on under the surface and all of the layers and meanings.
He didn't exactly say that.
Oh, okay.
It was,
what exactly did he say?
I can't remember. We don't have it on the screen. I do remember it was Tumblr user Cascade Beta. But he wrote that he thinks he thinks people don't give its story enough credit, is what I think he said.
I see. I mean, I think that it does, it is very, it does a lot with little, which is always nice. It has a minimal storytelling aesthetic, which still manages to be coherent.
Yes.
Even though everything is hallucinogenic and, shot through with all the particular vibe of the bit. And so, yeah, that's worth praising. It's, it tells its horrific story with a admirable economy of narrative.
Yes, story or stories, you might say.
Exactly. I mean,
Whoa, what just happened?
I don't know.
I think I just nudged my stick, that's all.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like my field of vision changed, but okay, go on.
Is it just me, or is everything about penises this week? I feel like that we've said a lot of things that could potentially be about penises.
What have we said that could have been about penises?
I don't know. You just keep saying things like cockpits and joysticks.
My thing keeps doing that.
And that. I'm in the 8th grade because Josh and I just watched Southland Tales, which you probably heard us talking about last time, and it's a movie that is in the 8th grade.
It's eternally. I've never seen it.
I've never seen anything.
Let's not talk too much about
it.
it.
No. I just want you to have the flavor of our immediate reactions to having watched most of it.
It was. It's.
Ready? Hotline Miami, it ain't. I'll tell you.
Oh shit!
What the fuck are you doing?
Tilting the truck.
Yeah, that's what happens when you. Well, regardless. So yeah, my thoughts on Hotline Miami. In terms of immersive universe creation, it's it's non-parallel, man.
Non-paralleled.
It's yeah, exactly. Those were also words for the thing I said.
In the language we were speaking, I think. Huh? Non-parallel sounds...
It would be better if we were in France.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're in Germany. And I don't know how to say unparalleled in German. I bet it's great though.
Yeah, probably.
We'll put what unparalleled is in German in the description. We'll put it on your screen right now.
It's just sitting on your screen right now.
I'm never gonna get tired of that.
He likes making me do these things. Sometimes I actually do them.
Yeah, it's kind of.
But the thing is, I don't always listen to the entire episode before I upload these, which means I don't always remember that he wanted me to do stuff.
Exactly.
I do apologize. I did want to put up the pictures of the fish in that one episode.
Yeah.
Remember when we were looking at fish?
Yeah, but it was at the end of like a very long episode, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Nobody was watching
But it
by
would
that
have been
point
a nice
except
bonus.
the two smartasses who
Actually got a
have
fruit
now
basket.
received their fucking gift baskets. Yeah. So. Where was I? Oh yeah,
Hotline
I was talking about the deeply immersive experience of Hotline Miami, and I was delivering the kind of quality and immersion that you've come to expect.
Hotline Miami is definitely a game whose story beats are really part and parcel with the audio-visual aesthetic of the thing.
Oh man, the music is so key in that game.
Yeah, and
the beats,
the hallucinatory kind of color-changing background. It's like that somehow not only is it pretty clever that it uses aesthetics. Jesus Christ!
What are you doing? Why can't you drive truck?
I don't know. I'm trying to go fast.
Don't do it fast.
Not only is it impressive that it uses the video game aesthetics, which from the '80s to kind of suggest a setting of the '80s, which was cool.
Yeah.
But also it uses it twists that aesthetic in ways which create the feeling that your character is like fueled by adrenaline and possibly drugs,
cocaine,
and doesn't exactly know what's happening.
That game is full of cocaine.
Yes.
So much cocaine inside the game. Yeah, and I don't know. I love the little leitmotif of your friend who works at every job.
Yeah.
That
you up with
it was like I initially when I started the game I thought, oh, of course this is the dude's connection who's paying him, but the fact that it's not. Right. It turns out it's just like this guy, and like those like those suspiciously planted payoffs were in fact just pizzas, and like VHS tapes.
Yeah.
But that is a lovely little joke.
It is. I think it ties into what the story is trying to say. If it's trying to say anything.
What's it trying to say?
In my opinion, it's trying to say the story doesn't matter.
I would say that is. I'd say that's the good way to take it.
And it is sort of ironic. I have heard people argue that it's a failure, albeit a minor one. Mm-hmm. That the game uses the story to say the story doesn't matter. It's almost like it's making the false argument that the story doesn't matter. Because clearly it does.
Clearly it matters because they're doing it with the story.
Yeah, you're going to have a story, like no matter what, whether or not it's a minimal story. But I think more charitably we can just say that it's an argument in favor of minimal stories.
That strikes me as a silly criticism. I mean, because it's like clearly in order for there to be a video game you need some sort of context.
Right, but I think the criticism operates by assuming that the creators of this video game don't already know that.
Which is also ludicrous.
Right.
I mean...
I don't know why that keeps happening.
I think it's because I keep doing that.
No.
Really?
No.
That doesn't do anything?
I don't see how it could be.
Okay.
It's like by the same amount every time.
You're right. I think that... Oh, wow, look at that.
I'm kind of tempted to go do some tech support.
Yeah, we haven't really said anything particularly valuable over the course of this
I don't think we have to discard what we said. It's no big deal. It's just really weird.
All right. You want to pause and check it out?
Yeah, I'm just going to pause and plug the controller back in. Be right back, everybody. And here we go. Pow.
Whoa!
Okay, no, we're fine.
I want you to do that every time you do something particularly impressive in the truck first. Just wah! Hallelujah.
Ah, man.
What a nice tunnel we're going down. I feel like this could be from a respectable late 90s shooter.
Yeah, if I were a baby right now, my eyes would be going freaky out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I hope that none of y'all are particularly photosensitive.
Yeah, we should put a seizure warning on all
Whoa,
of our...
Jesus, you just almost drifted into that.
I had to scratch the back of my neck.
I'll scratch the back of your neck.
I've already handled it. Thank you.
Oh, well, maybe I can awaken more itches.
So yeah, where were we? We're talking about the story of Hotline, right?
Yeah,
we were talking
such
about
as it is.
We were talking about the debate.
Okay, so
the story, the fact that it says it doesn't matter.
So there, I feel like that there's this sort of, I feel like that reading it as it's a commentary on video game stories is the charitable way to read what narrative content there is, and the uncharitable way to read what narrative content there is that it is to read it as a commentary on violence, which is what it invites you to do.
Yeah.
And
I think right.
And so I think that one could be forgiven for reading it, for taking it on face value.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly with the ending.
Yeah.
Whereas you are all my puppets dance, kind of shit. It's like, yeah, we're calling you, not you, but you, I'm pointing out at the computer screen at you, bringing your morality into question, which is kind of actually just part of the 80s vibe in the first place, because that was, sort of the initial locus of that kind of moral panic.
I think it's probably fair to say that stuff is in the game intentionally, but kind of as bait.
Yeah. I don't, given the lovely immersiveness of the aesthetic, I don't really have a problem with going a step beyond that relatively obvious conclusion. You're going too fast again, my friend.
Slow down then.
Or we could just
speed the whole way.
We could speed the whole way. We have all the euros that we will ever require.
I think it's worth trying to stay within the lines here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not much of a video game otherwise, is it? I would have totally been sad if it had ended on the first ending. We hadn't gotten the biker bit.
Interesting. I think when we talked about your initial impressions, you sort of said that you had preferred the biker ending, or rather the jacket ending.
No, I think the misheard me or misinterpreted me there. I was fine. I found here's my criticism of the game is that at its best, the game walks the line between being super video gamey and super immersive arty.
Yeah.
And they kiss up against each other in this super sweet synergistic way, where you are in a violent video game and playing a violent video game, but you are also kind of in a Beat Takeshi movie or something, or where there's this sort of ballet of violence unfolding, but it's also kind of flat and terrifying.
Right.
And that's great. But in the later stages of the jacket arc, it kind of tips over and it becomes way too much of a video game.
Right, when it becomes a revenge fantasy.
Yeah, and once again, willing to give them credit for that being a part of it, given what the whole arc of the story does.
Right.
You could view it as an effective choice, but if it had ended at that point, I'd be like, well, they had me in this lovely grip, and then they kind of lost me.
Yeah. And
now I'm watching a movie instead of playing a game, which is what the last few stories feel like to me. It's there's a plot, and then there's a mechanic, as opposed to the earlier missions where the plot and the mechanic and the feeling of it just feel so beautifully intertwined.
Right.
The biker bits kind of bring you back.
Yes.
Into that, and also serve as commentary on sort of the ending arc of that initial aesthetic drive.
Right.
There's a lot in there, I think, about the difficulty of writing a story, also about the difficulty of having a story in games, because the thing about writing a story is that the feel of it has to change over the course of the story. In a lot of cases, there's you have your Watchmen, where the entire narrative is told within the exact same framework, but even that is even that knows when to explode, when it's time for it to explode, right?
Yes.
So the problem with telling a story through video games is not only that you have to pay attention to the way that the gameplay and the story synchronize, but you also have to be conscious that if you have the same gameplay style throughout the whole thing, then it's going to blunt the feeling of arc in the plot.
Yeah, that's insightful. And that reads into the hospital level in an interesting way, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
My favorite reading of the hospital level comes from Aaron Signal, who wrote that the hospital level is an intentional exploration of what this game would be like if it sucked.
I think that's not. I think that's cute. May or may not be true, but it's cute.
More generally, it disempowers the character, and at the same time, it disempowers the player. It takes away all the stuff that made the game like really gripping.
Yeah.
And also takes away most of the stuff that makes the aesthetic intriguing.
Right.
It takes away all the colors. It takes away the beats. Like, there's definitely something intentional there. It's definitely. I mean, this is it's a hard thing for video games to do. Like art is rarely ingratiating. Like, great art is rarely ingratiating.
Right.
I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
Whereas video games, like, are almost always ingratiating, even when they're great. I mean, even when they're great art, they manage to do it while being ingratiating. But sometimes that creates problems, which I think is related to what you were saying earlier, which is that for Hotline Miami to be maximally ingratiating from a gameplay perspective, the story would have to go nowhere.
Right.
Yeah, and I think the hospital level is an interesting way to point out that tension.
Yeah, no, I think that a lot of questions are being raised over the course of the creation of this game about how story works. I don't necessarily think that the dudes are saying, well, we should throw in the towel, but I think, like, on story in games.
Right.
But I think that it's a definite sort of warning sign. It's like, the reason that you guys suck is this, and this.
Right. And they're definitely also saying, like whether or not they're saying games don't need stories,
mm-hmm.
They might be saying that, but they're certainly proving that story is hardly the only.
It's not the be all and end all by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, even when it comes to the narrative matter of a game.
Right. Sometimes feeling is sufficient, which is incidentally something that's similar to sort of the expressionist movement that you get in films, and certainly the kind of films that this game evokes are definitely ones where it's like there's something happening, but figuring out what's happening is beside the point.
Yeah.
Like those particular gangster movies and existential violence ballet movies that
Drive.
Yeah, I mean,
you haven't seen Drive yet,
I'm thinking of older stuff, but yeah.
Sure. Drive is in the language of cinema, it explores that same concept, which is that there's a story here, and maybe somebody it's an interesting story, but the director and even the character are not so concerned with it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
They're more just concerned about the aesthetic, and Hotline Miami draws from Drive so directly.
So yeah, Josh and Isaac give the game 2 thumbs up, 9.3 Pitchfork points out of 10.
9.8 IGN points out of 10.
10.3 GameSpot points out of 10. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
5 Ebert stars.
Yeah.
Oh wait, he only does 4.
That's true. It's definitely
5 Adam Sessler.
It's definitely a 4 Ebert star movie.
Yeah, definitely. Game.
Yeah, game.
Movie.
Movie film. Oh god, I just did a fucking Borat reference.
I can't believe you
did it. It's 2014.
I can't believe you did it.
I'm gonna have to go and do some sort of ritual shriving after this. Time to break out the hair shirt.
The hair shirt?
Yeah. Are you familiar with the ways of ascetic monks?
No.
Yeah. Well, in addition to all of the whipping themselves they did, they also wore really uncomfortable shirts. That was part of the way that they abased themselves before God, and a hair shirt is the particular kind of shirt that they like to use for that purpose.
I see. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, better slow down.
Indeed.
All right. So
the
other thing that's going on right now in video games is, this is going to be long over by the time anyone sees this video, but the Humble Bundle is having a roguelike sale.
Are we going right into the roguelike sale?
Do you have something else you want to talk about?
No, not really. Let's talk about roguelikes.
Yeah, I mean,
I finally got to King Yama in Spelunky a couple of times.
I think Isaac has come around to Spelunky in a big way.
Yeah, in a big, huge chunks of my days kind of a way.
Right.
It's a shame. It's a phase that everybody else went through 2 years ago.
Sure. Well, a lot of people are newly going through it now that the PC version just came out. You're not alone, my friend. There's even new Tumblrs coming out about Spelunky. The Book of Death or whatever.
Yeah.
Book of the Dead.
That's pretty. They're black and white GIF reenactments of generated via computer from deaths during challenge runs.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is
It's a fun thing.
it's a fun thing.
I like the future of video games. I like that we're living in it. But yeah, I think it's interesting to
But the
mention
future is even more futuristic than scientists had
have predicted.
have predicted. Oh.
I think it's worth exploring that your initial, shall we say, your initial hesitation with Spelunky was that it seemed to lack flow.
There's a bit of a barrier to entry in terms of the in terms of the skill level, even among those of us who
There
are
is, yes.
more used to platformy kind of a games.
But I think it's interesting as a case study that you'd think you would know what flow looks like from the outside, right?
Yeah,
But as it turns out, you don't always.
Exactly. There's a given. I mean, the thing about flow is that in video games is that it relates to a sort of periodicity, if you'll forgive me, which is that the tempo of any given game, which the feeling of flowing through a game has to be
Right.
related to, has to do with the length of a particular playthrough, like the way in which a particular playthrough is more or less forgiving based on the length, and sort of the magnetic pull of challenge over time. And Spelunky's rhythm is...
It's happening again.
Oh no.
Well, whatever.
Spelunky's rhythm is like weirdly... Spelunky's rhythm is a little bit slower than you would expect it to be. I think like the heartbeat of the game is decelerated somewhat. Certainly compared to like what you might expect from a platformer.
Yeah.
If you come into it like after playing Super Meat Boy, it feels a little bit glacial. But you just have to let your tempo sync up to the game. But I think that headlight usage effects...
Seriously, I thought I didn't need those on anymore.
Dude, it's barely dawn.
But look, I can see. Whatever. I should
It's
judge by the fact that all
other-
the other cards have them on.
It's whether other people can see you that's the issue.
True.
Driving 101, ladies and gentlemen.
But look, officer, I can see.
I can see
Just look at this
perfectly.
Fraps footage taken from my perspective.
Right. But yeah, you were going to make probably a slightly more interesting point about flow than I just did.
I wasn't necessarily. I'm just
Okay.
raising the topic. But I think it is... What you say about slowness is germane. Something else in this roguelike sale is an interesting, although probably not as good, but certainly worth playing game called Sword of the Stars of the Pit.
Oh yeah, Sword of the Stars of the Pit. Have you started playing that?
I have not, but I will one day. My brother told me about his first round of Sword of the Stars of the Pit, though.
Oh, what happened in his first round? I have played the shit out of this game, so...
Right. What I told him after this run... Well, I'll tell you what I told him after this run, after I tell you about this run.
That seems wise.
Yes. What he told me was that he described his experience of playing the first level while he was playing the first level. He was basically telling me, this first level seems like it doesn't need to exist, because it seems like there's no way I could have died. This comes with a big disclaimer that he's not familiar with all the mechanics.
Yeah.
But he was somewhat frustrated by the slowness of the movement.
Yeah.
The lengthiness of the animations.
Yeah.
This is something my brother strongly dislikes in games. I don't necessarily agree. Like something my brother does in XCOM is he has a tool that speeds up all of the animations, so the consequences of his decisions are immediate. Whereas I kind of savor the moment of uncertainty, even if it is a little too laggy sometimes. Like, you know, when a sniper does an Overwatch shot and we get to watch him line up that shot for like 5 whole seconds before he takes it.
Yeah,
that's a bit much, and I can see why one might be tempted to skip it. But still, I think that there's a textural deliciousness to slowing things down.
Speaking of textural deliciousness, I think the game is looking remarkably lovely right now.
Yeah, you're right. But anyway,
So yeah, okay.
he was frustrated by this first level.
All right.
For reasons like that.
Mhm.
And then he goes down to the second level.
Yeah.
And what he said happened was he took one step toward a bug-looking thing,
Yeah.
and then his character went into a fear state for like all the rest of the turns until he died.
There is no fear state in this game.
Really?
Yeah.
He claimed that it might be this is with the expansion on, so maybe it's a new mechanic. But what he explained was that he lost control of his character, I believe, or maybe he was debuffed somehow.
Yeah, no. He could have. There is a. Oh yeah, bad luck to run into one of those guys right off the bat on the second level. But yes, you can absolutely be made rabid by being hit by a rabid critter and lose control of your character, and then the game just fast forwards basically to your death unless you're lucky.
He also said maybe one of the 40 items in my inventory could have helped me out in this situation, but I have no idea.
Yeah, no, the game is it's a little bit more punishing than than
what I told him after this playthrough was, I think what appealed to Isaac about this game was that it's very cruel and possibly unfair. And it kind of just poses this challenge, do you think you can beat me?
It was a good time sink.
Yeah.
I mean, and speaking of rhythms, shit has a slow ass rhythm. This game does, and I think that's intentional. I'm not going to actually go to the boards for Sword of the Stars, the pit, and say that it's a good game.
No, yeah.
I'm going to say that it's a game that will serve a very specific function in your life if what you want is a slow and poorly balanced roguelike that is not as inscrutable as, say, your NetHack.
NetHack is extremely well balanced, though.
Yeah, I know. But if what you want is a decreased barrier to entry,
a decreased barrier to entry, but an equally
deathy Byzantine experience, then it's kind of fun. And once you get
Right, yeah. No, my brother seemed frustrated by that story, but when he told it to me, I was like, oh, that's awesome. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, the first level is one of those things where it's no, there really isn't a chance of you dying on the first level. If you don't know what you're doing, there's a chance of you using way too much of your ammo on the first level and fucking yourself over.
Yeah.
And that's once again, bombable walls. That's bad. That's not the good kind of invisible cracks.
The same thing in Teleglitch, which maybe we'll talk about in a bit. The first level in some games does seem to just be a get through this level using a minimum of resources.
Right, that's a super roguelike kind of a thing.
Yeah,
and it is definitely one of those where it's the satisfaction that comes with playing the game. If satisfaction there be is largely you spent time in it and figured out its shit and meticulously wrote down all the recipes that you laboriously decrypted from the computers that you can only make work a third of the time. And it's a game to be played over and over and over and over again, and it is clearly also a game which is meant to be. It's clearly also a game which is meant in that sort of arcade box way to to be not particularly worried about how fair or well balanced it is, because with the idea that you'll just play it 90 bazillion times.
Right.
I've stopped playing it. It's not as fun as most of the other roguelikes that I play.
Right, and a nice thing about Spelunky is that it gives you these resources, the ropes and bombs right off the bat, which you're going to be using right off the bat. It's good to save them, but that game kind of has a rhythm where you kind of have to use them to get them.
Yep.
And that's a really good way to do it, especially when the resources are so simple, but so profound in their effect.
I've really been. I'm at the point where I'm starting every 5 playthroughs to kill the shopkeepers on purpose.
No, yeah.
It's makes things fun.
Yeah, and it's effective too because you get everything.
You get
in the black
all the
market,
stuff, right?
As long as you can clear out the black market.
You just walk in there with a shotgun and
I think it's fair to say that
take their course.
Spelunky is a masterclass in game design.
I agree. I wish it was a better example of a couple of other things.
Yes.
We were talking about story.
Right. It doesn't have one.
It doesn't have one. I'm not saying that it needs one.
Right.
I'm just saying.
But what non-story it has doesn't really end up filling the role of ambience.
Right. Exactly. It's what I would have enjoyed is something that was not just a melange of all of the available Indiana Jones cliches,
right?
Along with all of the kind of the racist and shit that comes along with that. And,
right. To Derek's Yu's credit when Anidia Sarkeesian called him out on the damsel thing, his response was "Oh yeah, good point. You're right. Oh well." And then when a bunch of people said, "I can't believe you're like acknowledging what Anidia Sarkeesian said about your masterpiece of a game, and his response is very well reasoned. Like, I don't think she said my game sucks. I think
she pointed out a thing that was wrong with it, and then I fixed it.
Yeah.
which is excellent. You know,
Right.
it's like it's clear that like that essentially no thought went into that part of the game,
Right.
and you know that was all basically just dressing for the mechanics, and I'm like, you know, and that's fine. The game is a lovely piece of work mechanically. It's just a matter of like, well, you know, if we're looking at places where it could have been better, it could have been better if a little bit of thought had been put into this specific.
Yeah.
Diddly Bob.
They could have reached higher.
Yeah, but I'm fine with it as it is.
Yeah. The funny thing is that Derek Yu's first game, Aquaria, is like kind of a narrative Metroidvania experience, which not that many people care about. I've never played it myself.
Aquaria? Oh, I have that because of GOG. Does anybody call it GOG?
Some people, yeah.
Okay, it's much better than
GOG.
The
GOGCon. Welcome to GOGCon.
Welcome to GOGCon.
Anything is possible at GOGCon.
What are we referencing?
ZomboCon.
ZomboCon! Oh my god!
I wonder if that's still up.
Oh, internet prehistory, ladies and gentlemen. Those were the days.
I miss
Hamster Dance and ZomboCon. But yeah,
nice colors.
Poland is lovely. I want to be in Poland.
Are we
But
in
I'm
Poland
in China.
yet?
Yeah, we're totally in Poland.
Cool.
The street sign's been in Polish for some time. Yeah, buddy.
So yeah, we're talking about Spelunky. We're talking about sort of the Stars of the Pit. Tonight's theme is themes.
Tonight's. So, are you going to talk about Blip Frap or
Teleglitch?
Teleglitch
is cool. I don't have a huge amount of things to say about it, but it's like what happens if you take a game kind of like the original Quake, in some ways, in terms of its. Okay, maybe let me tell you a story about games in the 90s. A weird thing about games in the 90s is that they only had music if you played them with the CD-ROM in the drive. And so I played many of these games, Quake included, without any music.
I imagine that must have improved the experience given the kind of music that was generally available at that period of time.
Quake's music was Trent Reznor, which probably fit really well. But it was interesting. I was very, very young for some of these games. I remember, because they would also play the music. They would also play music if you put a different music CD in the drive while you played the game. They would just play that disc's music. Which is interesting that I think about it. I guess it just means that these games had code in them to play a music CD that's in your computer. And like the game disc must have had music CD encoding on it. Well, okay, that's interesting. Would the Quake CD have played music if I'd put it in my car disc deck?
Maybe.
Anyway, I had this weird thought when I was playing these games that that when I played music while playing Battlezone, for instance, that the game was actually remixing the music. I must have been like 6.
Yeah.
And I actually thought that the music was different, like that it was being played on different instruments, and I can't account for how my senses were so fickle to fool me thus. Although it is an interesting statement on how much music can affect the ambience of your experience and how much music is affected by whatever context it's in.
Particularly as I was saying before, by an experience that's so inherently rhythmic as the playing of a video game.
Yeah, so true.
Every video game has its own pulse, and if it's at a different rate or a different feeling the music that's playing during it, it's going to try to cram that. Your brain is going to try to cram them into some sort of alignment or opposition with each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this game does that, which is a thing that I wish more games did.
Yeah.
I of course grew up as a Mac
When
user.
you say does that, do you mean
it doesn't use music essentially?
Right. But interestingly, it actually there's a DLC available for like $1 that comes with music, but it doesn't add it into the game. It just gives you some MP3s to play behind the game if you choose.
Want to. That's pretty cute.
I'm gonna have to gun this in a second.
Yeah. No, boy, I sure hope that you survive.
Me too. Okay, everybody.
Oh yeah, this is one way to do it.
Thanks for stopping.
We don't want to die. Oh, what was I saying?
Talking about the music.
Oh, yeah, talking about the music. Yeah, I grew up being a Mac user as a kid. I grew up on Marathon, and Marathon, of course, does not, with a few exceptions.
Marathon 1 had music, but no one played with it.
Yeah, and
Marathon 2 didn't have music.
And Durandal and Infinity are the ones that I
Yeah.
think of the most, and they did not have music. They kind of
Ambient sounds.
They had ambient sounds, which
They were like the first games to do that, which I think we've said this before.
we have, but
I
bears
can't
repeating.
overstate how cool
You
that
should
was
go
at
and
the
play
time.
Marathon. It's available for free. Download Aleph 1. Just put it up and take it for a spin. It's actually kind of relaxing.
Yeah, it's such a good game. It was a competitor to
We're
Doom at the time.
talking about Durandal here. Marathon 2.
Yeah,
Durandal.
yeah. Marathon 1's pretty good. But
Yeah, but it's
Marathon 2 is better.
Yeah.
You can also get it on XBLA with high quality sprites.
I wouldn't recommend it. The high quality spread. Actually, there was this article I saw bopping around Tumblr about the difficulty with. This was on the AV Club, wasn't it? Did you link me to this about the difficulty of conserving old games?
Yeah.
Not for the usual reasons, because of like the vanished. The vanishing of old platforms, but because they tend to be updated when they're re-released.
The particular focus of this article, I tumbled it a while ago,
Yeah.
is the Final Fantasy remakes for mobile platforms.
which are ugly as shit.
Yeah.
And the originals, while being comparatively primitive, were not ugly as shit. They were actually really appealing within the bounds of the technology available at the
It
time.
looks like I've got a windy road ahead.
You can do it, man. I believe in you.
I'm just going to overtake all these guys.
But anyway, for that reason, I recommend against the updated XBLA sprite.
Right. They're not only updated, but they're somewhat reimagined, and
they're smoothed.
Yeah. One of the nice things about Marathon is that it's set in this particular flavor of science fiction universe, which no other video game has ever really done.
Yeah.
It's kind of got a 90s camp to it, but like combined with a hard sci-fi edge, which I don't know.
It's a place where ugly pixel art belongs.
Yeah,
put it that
definitely.
way. I mean, this is a universe where ugly pixel art is the preferable choice.
But it's also a place of like trickling water and wind blowing through chasms.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Marathon might be the first game to have captured naturalistic beauty.
I'm willing to go with that. I mean,
in the particular way that it does.
it's just like, I mean, if only because there's water, I can hear it. There's wind, I can hear it.
Yeah.
I mean, the wind isn't affecting me at all, but I can hear it.
Like hearing it and looking at the thing it's blowing through is just one step away from being able to feel it.
Yeah.
It's like in a game like Ico, you can smell the smells. In Marathon, you can kind of smell the smells too.
We got to play that now that you have your special box.
Is it Marathon?
No, Ico.
Oh yeah, sure. I have a disc. It might still work.
Regardless, you were talking about
Teleglitch.
which is kind of like a roguelike Quake.
Yeah, it's kind of like a roguelike Quake. I don't have much to say about the gameplay other than that it's really good. It's tense. It has ammo conservation. It's real time. But it has that kind of. We were talking about the pacing of it. The pacing of it is definitely interesting. It's kind of
unlike a lot of roguelikes where you'll run out of food or those ghosts will come and eat you or what have you. There is no time constraint.
There's nothing like that.
So you can kind of wander around and explore to your heart's content.
Right. It's about exploring the worlds, which are pretty. Like they have flickering lights, and they similar to Marathon. They have these sounds which add a haunting atmosphere.
I really actually. The game is lower res than it needs to be.
Right.
To the point
It's
where
got scanlines optionally, but
where it's to the point where it's clearly an aesthetic choice, and we've definitely been in. Josh and I have definitely been in the camp where we are sort of suspicious of the aesthetic choice of going all retro just to announce that that it's a video game.
I have mixed feelings about that.
Yeah. As do I, but this is a great example of a game that is not using huge blocky pixels to say, look at this art that we're doing, or to make it, or let's remember the video games of the past. It's
more to invoke kind of a granular yuckiness.
Yeah, it's
like it combines this old pixel effect with old like video cassette distortion effects. Which is a strikingly good combination, kind of similar to Hotline Miami.
And then he uses like these dynamic lighting effects, which are like super advanced comparatively to the stuff they're doing, which I think is a thing that is really cool to do. Just purely is to because is to take we shouldn't just because we can do these really detailed sprites these days. There's no reason that we should discard the inherent strengths of the.
It's kind of got an impressionist appeal to it.
Yeah.
And the other nice thing about the blocky pixel look is that
what is that?
That might be I
do believe
that's a fucking fantasy castle.
Oh my goodness! Look at this.
Well, the expansion was clearly worth it.
Oh, wow.
I wonder if that's meant to be like a real town.
Let's hop off the bridge, go into the river, and drive up to that castle.
Yeah, this isn't a place you can actually visit in this game.
Are you sure?
They don't receive shipments. Yeah, I'm sure.
What if we started driving over there? Would we hit an invisible wall?
Definitely.
No. Well, it's a good thing we're not doing that, because that would break my immersion. That would be sad.
Anyway, as I was saying, the nice thing, the reason I believe they're so popular as a choice, besides the fact that they're easy to do. Although, I should also say that leveling the criticism at pixel art in indie games that they're done because the creators are lazy is rarely valid.
I don't think that we said that, or I didn't say it. I didn't say that was the core of my.
No, but people say that.
Okay, well, fuck those people.
Right, like, for example, Phil Fish and Fez. Like, say what you will about Phil Fish, but
lazy is not a word.
No, it's clear. Like, every goddamn fucking pixel of that game has been so overworked. Oh my god. Anyway, but no, the reason it's kind of appealing from a video games or art perspective is because it's like the only aesthetic in the world that says video games. It's the only aesthetic that video games have ever had unique to them.
So it can be a bit of a shortcut in that way.
It can be, but it can also be reflexive and appropriate,
Oh, is it possible to get hit by a train, I wonder?
I'm sure it's possible.
We appear to have stopped on the train tracks. Are you doing some sort of experiment?
I don't see any trains. The other game in this pack is Binding of Isaac.
This really is just making Poland look like a magical fairyland.
Yeah.
Given the amount of time that I've spent playing Binding of Isaac, it's kind of amazing to me that we haven't mentioned it on this show before.
Yeah, I think you should do your pitch for it. I really liked that post you wrote ages ago on what its aesthetic means.
Oh god, it was so long ago that I've kind of lost track of that particular thought.
To try and paraphrase it, you, if I recall correctly, you basically said, maybe this will jog your memory. You basically said that it's an expression of a childhood kind of grossness, a kind of a self-loathing obsession with poop and pee and tears and other bodily excretions, and like just creepy crawlies, kind of you know what I'm getting at here?
Yeah.
It's something you said you related to.
I don't think that's actually what I said. I'm sort of getting back to what I was thinking about now. But I mean, as a little bit of background, this game is like unpleasant in a way that feels like it was designed to shock.
Right.
And really, what's like, I think that the striking thing about that is more of what happens to that feeling when you play the game over and over and over and over and over and over again, like you're supposed to play the game over and over and over again, and how that sort of just like vanishes into a kind of background, into kind of a background worry, which is the thing. It's like, the point of Binding of Isaac, like more than any other roguelike I've ever played, taps into the things that playing a roguelike feels like. I think this is more what I was talking about.
Okay.
Like in terms of the constant low-level anxiety that you feel because you could lose everything at any moment.
Right.
The sort of the feeling of kind of being very small against a large, cosmic unfairness. It's like playing a roguelike is like being a child and being in a relationship with a world that you don't understand. And there's a bunch of stuff about there's stuff in the game about ritual
Right.
about the way that there's definitely the game definitely brings out like the obsessive compulsive element of roguelike play, or about video game play in general, and makes the sort of the connection to running through a kind of ritual that will make everything okay. If you just keep doing it enough times, you might eventually possibly get it right, making that explicit.
Right.
While at the same time making the point, given the number of times that you have to actually win the game in order to win the game.
Right.
And you never even do, but,
Yeah.
making the point that even once you get to the end of that, you're still going back, going back and starting all over again. I feel like it's aware of that, and I feel like it's trenchant, and I feel like that all of the people who come away with it feeling like, oh, it's just being kind of gross and bloody and poopy and Jesus-y in order to like be naughty are missing just like, no, we're a 5-year-old,
right?
And this is what a confused 5-year-old brain is like. And I think that's pretty good.
In some, I think it's interesting that the roguelike has become such a popular genre lately. Like, it never even really used to be a genre in the same sense of the word that it is now. It used to be literally clones of the game Rogue were roguelikes, whereas now the game, or the term has come to mean like just games with permadeath and randomly generated levels are roguelikes. But yeah. I think, you're starting to hit on it there, is that more fundamentally the roguelike has begun to interest people because it's definitely a genre of games which is built for people, for the most part, who already have a history with video games.
Yeah.
And it's one of the only genres out there which doesn't say, okay, we're going to help you. Like, it's one of the only unhelpful genres of games. Pedestrians. So rarely seen.
Oh, wow. That's actually really distressing.
Yeah.
That creeps me out on some level. Where are you guys going? Is there life outside of trucks? Why are there only human beings in Poland?
Anyway, it's one of the only genres of games which gives you a completely, like, what's the word? Like a completely untamed wilderness to conquer, I suppose.
It's a game. They're in games. They are games about games, in a way. They're games about gameliness.
Yeah.
And also, there's definitely kind of nostalgia built into that, because it's playing a roguelike is like playing Mario was like when you were very small and uncoordinated.
True.
And there is a kind of
and certainly roguelikes aren't the only games that can do that.
But it's kind of built into it.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that the past few years have proven that there are so many different ways for them to express this, whether it's the kind of digital paranoia of teleglitch, or the self-loathing childhood angst of Binding of Isaac.
Mm-hmm. And there's a I think that part of the upswing, sort of the resurgence of it, is just because of the available technology and platforms, and like programming resources have swung back into the favor of that scale of game. Like with mobile devices and homebrew programming being easier and so forth. But I think that the sort of the coming of age of a certain generation of game player probably also has something to do with it.
Yeah, true.
Oh, wow.
What the fuck this junction just screwed me big time.
It's okay. Just wait for that dude to go past.
This is called an unprotected left turn.
You can do it.
I remember that from traffic school.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that actually went really quick.
Yeah, we're getting better at this.
Yeah, just shooting our mouths off for ages and ages. It's a learned skill, just like anything else. I'm going to be reaching for the poetry here.
In the roguelike of doing a truck podcast, we have become intermediate.
We're getting. Getting to Olmec, like a good 50% of the time.
Being able to park 100% of the time will be when I can beat Yama. Yeah. Let's see. I think I figured something out about it last time.
I reached for poetry and I found Wittgenstein. I'm finding that very distressing.
Poetry's bottom shelf, man.
I know. Isn't it just?
Unfortunately, I don't know how to exercise that principle I figured out last time here, so...
Do your best.
Yeah. That's
I reached for the wasteland and I ended up with digitizing race.
You got my media criticism, media theory.
This is okay.
Just read a page from Digitizing Race.
Sylvia fucking Plath.
Oh yeah, sweet. She's great.
Over your body the clouds go high, high and icily and a little flat, as if they floated on a glass that was invisible. Unlike swans having no reflections, unlike you with no strings attached, all cool, all blue. Unlike you there on your back, eyes to the sky, the spider-men have caught you, winding and twining their petty fetters, their bribes, so many silks. How they hate you.
I'm upset that this doesn't count.
They converse in the valley of your fingers, they are inchworms. They would have you sleep in their cabinets, this toe and that toe, a relic. Step off 7 leagues like those distances that revolve in Crivelli, untouchable. Let this eye be an eagle, the shadow of this lip, an abyss. Oh, that was painful.
I could have done it.
I know.
I was really close. Well,
I wonder what that poem is about.
me too. I didn't really listen.
I know you were, but still, I was listening. I don't even know what it's about. I haven't really read Plath. I'm going to have to do that.
Yeah, feel free to borrow Plath.
Thank
Anyway,
you.
gang. Bye.
Bye.